November 16, 2020. It's a Wednesday. Lunes, Martes, Miyerkules. Dalawang araw pa ang biyahe natin simula bukas bago tayo makapahinga for the weekend. Pero wag natin problemahin yung weekend. Sufficient are the concerns of for tomorrow. And there's enough problems for today. And sasabihin, Cito, why are you talking about problems? Well, go look at the front page of the Philippine Star and you will see somebody dropped the ball. Kumbaga, nagkakagandahan na, mananalo na, we're about to win the game. Or at least in this case, get 10 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine, yung premier class, kumbaga sa Toma, yung primerang klase, tinrabaho ni Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin at sino pa ba ni Ambassador Babes Romualdez, yung Philippine ambassador to the United States. Pagdating daw to dit sa Pinas, sa yung pinasahan nila, the person that they assume was going to carry the ball, nilaglag. Ang tanong, nilaglag ba sa katangahan? Did the person drop the ball out of just sheer stupidity, incompetence, or did the person not even know what he was doing or what game he was playing? Kasi may mga taong ganyan eh. Kumbaga, nasa injury list na lahat ng player mo, kinuha mo na yung water boy. Ayun, ang sinute, yung water jug, hindi yung bola. In any case, today we are going to tackle, there's so much to talk about, and please continue to watch us. For many of you, you are watching us via Signal TV, channels 8 and 250. Maraming salamat po sa inyong nagsusubscribe and lalong-lalo na sa inyong nanonood ng agenda. I personally really appreciate it. I mean, it's not about ratings. Masarap kasing isipin na may nanonood naman at nakikinig, and even better kung may nagre-react. Diba? Kumbaga, text lang o kaya mag-message kayo sa One News PH. In any case, if you can't watch us on Signal TV for whatever reason, because you have to go mobile, go to work at around this time, then you can still watch us on Facebook. Facebook.com/OneNewsPH and on YouTube, One News PH. If alam nyo, hindi po ako techie, so I'm not sure, but I have the impression that you can even watch reruns of the programs on YouTube. Also, of course, on Signal, they do the rerun midday and early evening. In any case, today, who are our interviewees? We have on the lineup, Lieutenant General Cesar Binag, Commander Joint Task Force COVID Shield. Kasi, sandali, ano nangyari kay well, anyway, we will find out. Kasi parang nag-iba, hindi ba? Ang kilala ko yung isa mukhang siya ngayon, si Lieutenant General Binag, ang naatasan, he is the one tasked to be the magagalit sa akin si General Binag, pero parang naturingang killjoy, naturingang killjoy kasi sila yung magbabantay pag may nagparty, arestado, or at least that's the general notion. In any case, wala na pala si General Eliasar na napalitan na. But I'm hoping he got promoted, no? Ganun po talaga buhay eh. Pag bago yung boss sa taas, bago yung nasa baba most of the time. In any case, we will also interview Dr. Anthony Leachon, former advisor National Task Force versus COVID-19. Tatanungin natin. I will check. I will pretend to be a psychiatrist and confirm kasi sinasabi ni Secretary Galvante ba yun? At saka ni yung presidential spokesperson, you know who? Ito raw si kaibigan nating si Dr. Leachon na may sariling mundo. He just says what he wants to do and he's just looking for a job, and that's why he's criticizing the government policy. You kind of wonder about that reasoning. If you want a job in government, the last thing you want to do is criticize government. I mean, that's simple logic. So for for Harry Roque to say that Leachon, Dr. Tony Leachon, simply wants a position in government. That's why he's criticizing the vaccine program. Well, what about Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin? He's saying that we should have had 10 million doses. But somebody dropped the ball, etc. And the Senate is asking about this COVID program, the COVID vaccine program. We'll find out. We will also speak to Dr. Jaime Almora, President of the Philippine Hospital Association, a regular on agenda. Kasi alamin natin, kung magkatotoo, wag naman sana. In the event that there is a real surge, which is happening in other parts of the world, will we once again have problems in our hospitals? Will we once again hear about hospital holidays, etc., etc.? And last but not the least, Team Agenda has scheduled Mary Grace Santos, convener and spokesperson, Better Broadband Alliance. Truth be told, I am wondering what we will end up talking about. But nandiyan lahat yan. Kasi ako po, no, ayoko yung masyado akong maraming alam doon sa pag-uusapan. Because sometimes, pag masyado kang maraming alam, hindi ka na nagtatanong eh. Nagdidikta ka na. In any case, that's going to be our schedule for today. But please listen as I read the headlines and front page stories kasi medyo interesting. From the front page of the Philippine Star, the top story in today's paper, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin reveals that the Philippines was supposed to secure 10 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine until somebody dropped the ball. Unfortunately, Secretary Locsin has not named the ball dropper or the individual he was referring to, and that's 10 million doses. That's 10 million lives. So this is no laughing matter, and this is something that should be addressed transparently and publicly. Wala na pong takipan dito. Kung may pumalpak, that person should not be in the chain of command. At the top of the page, the International Criminal Court said it found reasonable basis of crimes against humanity in the country's drug war. Ito po ay inaral ng ICC, International Criminal Court, from November 2018 to March 2019. Pagkatapos noon, nagsara na yung pintuan dahil hindi na sila makapag-investigate dahil may COVID at saka ayaw na ng Philippine government na makisali doon sa yung program, may statute na may kasunduan that the Philippines will support and respect the findings of the ICC court regarding crimes against humanity. Ito po ang problema. Kahit na mag-don't like ka na mag-don't like, nakapirma na tayo bago tayo nag-don't like, na-imbestigahan tayo before tayo nag-don't like, or I don't want to play with you anymore. Well, essentially, the ICC established from November to March, there was reasonable basis to say may crimes against humanity. So magkakaimbestigahan. Mabuti na rin pong lumabas itong story ito. Not for anything. I'm not going to judge because what do I know, right? Pero alam niyo po, dumadalas po yung barilan at patayan na naman. Okay ba? Simula nitong nakaraang buwan na ito, or at least in the last few months, more people have been killed. And mind you, hindi lang po ang natutokhang yung mga drug suspects. Some people who are being ambushed or killed. Actually, one was killed again in Baclaran last week. The other one was in Fairview na natamaan yung aking pamangkin ng stray bullet. Mga informants ng NBI o ng police. So gumaganti na rin yung mga drug lords. So we have the beginnings of a new battle, if you want to call it. In any case, let's move forward. Meanwhile, the Education Department assured safety of students, teachers, and other stakeholders in the pilot project of face-to-face classes. Next, to allow the government to better address the pandemic, the Senate has approved the extension of the validity of the 2020 General Appropriations Act and the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act or Bayanihan 2. Moving to other headlines, at the lower part of the front page, the Interagency Task Force has given the go signal to the provincial point-to-point buses. Pwede na raw tumakbo, lumarga yung point-to-point buses sa mga probinsya. Ang labanan po doon is you will load and unload. Walang kargahan in between. Walang sakayan habang bumabiyahe, bigla kang papara. Bawal. Kanya lang, I'm just kind of wondering, because you remember about a month ago, they said the provincial buses will return, and they did not, and nobody showed up. Baga, nagpa-concert, walang nag-attend, medyo weird yun. So apparently, they needed the approval of the IATF bago sila lumabas. The question is, lalabas ba yung mga bus na yan? Sana naman po lumabas na kayo para makabiyahe na kami. Okay, and last but not the IATF also orders the wearing of face shields in public places. Medyo may mga pilosopo nag-comment. Pakisabihan mo, Cito, yung kapitbahay mo magsasaka, ha? At saka yung magtatanim, mag-face shield din sila. Medyo yun po itong issue sa face shield na ito. Lahat tayo mag-mask, agree. Pero yung in all places, medyo masyadong dapat LGU. Anyway, and President Duterte and Japanese Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide have also reaffirmed their commitment to broader ties. Ayan na po. Okay, let's go and meet the new commander of the Joint Task Force COVID Shield, Lieutenant General Cesar Binag. Sir, good morning, sir.
Nanonood ng iyong programa.
Ay, good morning, sir. And binabati ko kayo. Kayo na pala yung bagong commander. Medyo napapaghalatang nahuhuli ako sa balita, ano? Kasi medyo busy-busy tayong lahat. But in any case, General Binag, what are your plans? Kasi kanina nagbibiro ako, no, na matuturingan kang pambansang killjoy kasi kayo yung magbabantay ng mga lahat ng mga nagkakaraoke, mga nag-iinuman at nagpa-party. What is the plan of the task force, General?
Salamat, Cito. Una, dapat maunawaan natin yung pinaka-estratehiya ng buong gobyerno. Umiikot pa rin ito doon sa detection, isolation, treatment, tapos yung tinatawag na recovery. So dito sa prevention, ang ating palaging sinasabi dito, bahagi na yung pagkakaroon ng healthy lifestyle. Tapos yung pagsunod sa ating minimum health standards at sa quarantine protocols. Dito na ngayon pumapasok yung enforcement, kaming mga pulis. No? At maganda naman, si General Eliasar, nalatag na lahat yung ating mga programa, pulisiya, para ipatupad na itong mga resolution ng IATF at pag may bago lang silang guideline, nag-a-adjust kami. So yun yung ating kinatatayuan ngayon. At Cito, maganda rin maunawaan ng ating mga kababayan, itong prevention, sabi ng mga eksperto, ito yung pinakamalaking bahagi ng ating para magtagumpay tayo dito sa COVID. At kasama tayo lahat dyan. Hindi lang pulis, hindi lang gobyerno, kundi bawat mamamayan. No? Sabi nga ng isa, 80% daw ng solution nandito sa prevention. So yun, para lang from the general perspective, tapos punta naman tayo sa mga detalye, inyong naman, bukod sa pagbabantay natin o pagpapatupad sa COVID, Cito, binabantayan din natin yung mga kababayan natin na huwag maging biktima ng mga kriminal. Alam naman natin, nagbukas ng ating ekonomiya, tapos dumagdag na yung ating mga social activities, kaya dumami ngayon ng opportunity. No? Sabi nga namin sa crime, para magawa yan, dapat may opportunity, tapos may motibo, tapos may instrumento. Dati wala yung opportunity nung naka-lockdown tayo. Ngayon bukas na, kaya tumaas yan. So nagbabantay kami sa COVID, nagbabantay kami sa krimen, at syempre yung seguridad din natin laban sa terorismo at sa iba pang banta sa ating kapayapaan. So yun ngayon pang kalahatan, yun ang aming ginagawa ngayon. At sa simbang gabi, specific, kanina lang yan, para lang update ko kayo,
Mhm.
salamat sa pakikipagtulungan ho ng lahat ng mamamayan na nagsimba, ng ating mga parish priest at siyempre ng kabaranggayan. Wala ho kaming nai-record na insidente kanina at habang pinapatupad o sinasagawa ang ating simbang gabi. First day kanina eh. So yun
Mhm.
yung initial na pwede kong i-share muna tapos siguro iba pwede kang pag-usapan.
Meron ba general na protocol na pa doon malapit sa simbahan merong nagpapailaw ng blinker ng patrol para bagang sariling version nyo na ng parol at paalaala, nandito po kami, nagbabantay, baka nakakalimot kayo ng social distancing.
Thank you, Cito. Tama yan, no? Yung ating patrol cars, tapos plus dinoble pa natin yung ating mga pulis sa simbahan. May
Mm.
mga sa labas, tapos maganda kasi yung mga pinatupad ng ng Catholic bishop ng CBCP, I think
Mhm.
instruction. Banggitin ko lang no para ma-appreciate din natin sila. Unang-una, syempre sinunod nila yung 30% na capacity dito sa GHQ. Pangalawa, meron silang sariling marshals din sa loob, no, taga-guide, tapos binibilang nila yung numero na papasok kung
Mhm.
300 lang, depende sa laki ng simbahan. Tapos pag hindi na, doon na sa labas. Tapos sa labas naman, may mga markers din sila. Tapos
Mm.
dito, pag natapos kasi maraming paggabi, may mga anticipated masses, pagkatapos ng simba, may mga simbahan, dinidisinfect. So sana lahat na gawin to para yung susunod naman magsisimba, mas sila, mas safe, no? Tapos bukod doon, siyempre ando doon naman sa labas yung ating pulis at barangay na pagpasok pa lang, pinapaalalahanan, chine-check kung nakasuot sila ng mask, ng face shield, tapos siyempre paalala sa hugas ng kamay. Meron pa ngang ibang dito sa Santo Domingo, Chito, para naman sa contact
Mm.
tracing. Nagre-register sila ng pangalan nila, saka ng number nila, no? So, magandang practice 'to. Kaya lang ang tanong ko, sabi ko dun sa hepe, di gagamit sila ng ballpen, iba-ibang taong hahawak nun. Kaya nga
Mm.
magdala na lang sila ng sariling ballpen para walang at saka ng alcohol. Para paggamit, disinfect agad sila. So ito yung nakita natin, overall at salamat. Sana sunod-sunod at tuloy-tuloy na 'to hanggang matapos yung yung simbang gabi, no?
Okay, General Binag, matanong ko lang po, no, ano ba ang rule natin for mga party? Kasi mayroon ako nadinig nung kamakalawa na sinasabing ang gagawin daw yatang agreement ay not more than 10 or not more than 20 people converging, lalo na kung family reunion. Medyo napakamot ako ng ulo kasi doon sa Holland na dati napakaluwag-luwag, sabi ng anak ko, "Papa, mukhang solo flight ako sa Pasko." Bakit? Kasi you're only allowed to have 3 guests per family. Anak pa lang ng mga tito at tita ko, 3 na. Wala na, hindi na ako pwedeng sumali. So hanap na naman siya ng ibang kamag-anak na merong isa lang ang anak o walang boyfriend o walang girlfriend. Parang ganon. Dito ba sa Pilipinas, paano ang system natin?
Salamat, Tito. Ito naman yung ating appeal sa lahat, no? Sana naman ngayong Pasko, tanggapin na natin yung katotohanan na yung pagselebra natin, hindi katulad ng last year. Talagang
Mm.
magiging ibang-iba to. Kasi pag hindi natin tinanggap to, hahanap tayo ng paraan para malusutan natin yung sorry I have to say this, no,
Go ahead, please. I support you.
yung yung mga guidelines at protocol. So,
Mm.
yun na ipasok muna natin yun tapos ako hinihikayat ko po ang mga tatay at mga nanay ng pamilya na sila nang mag-impose nito. Kasi kung aasahan niyo ang pulis, barangay, hindi mo namin kayang puberan ang
Mm.
bawat bahay, bawat Pilipino, no? Gusto ko namin kayong paalalahanan, bantayan, pero kung hindi niyo kami tutulungan, mahirap po natin ma-implement 'to. So yun na. Kahit specific na doon sa numero, no? 'Di ba,
Mm.
sabi nga natin na unang-una sa isang pamilya, ang pinaka-safe yung tinatawag nating bubble ng isang pamilya kung magkakasama kayo. So yun ang una nating ina-advise, no? Sana yung immediate family na magkakasama sa loob ng bahay, kayo na lang mag-celebrate. Kasi nga ang assumption natin diyan, pare-parehas kayo ng exposure. So kung walang may tama sa inyo ng COVID, walang mahahawa at hindi rin kayo makakapagdala. No? So
Mm.
yun yung una nating pakiusap, no?
Mm.
Advice. at sa mga tatay nga natin ina-appeal to, sa mga nanay, ipatupad niyo to sa loob ng inyong tahanan. Ngayon naman, kung halimbawa talagang hindi sabihin na natin, no, sa instances, siyempre, doon pa rin yung sabi ng health experts, yung capacity ng bahay nyo o capacity ng lugar, doon nga palagi nagdedepende. Alam naman natin ang average sa size ng bahay natin, Cito, di ba? So, hindi rin
Mm.
malala. So, kung titignan nyo sa GCQ area, kaya nga ang safe na in-assume na lang nito, kinumpute na lang iba, 10, no? 10.
Mm.
Pero sana, ang assumption din doon, members lahat yun ng immediate family. No?
Mm.
Para kasi kung magko-computan pa tayo ng 30%, medyo maraming buta, di ba? Kaya may mga, hindi, ang bahay namin ganito ka. So medyo doon na lang tayo sa sabi nga nila, doon tayo sa side ng caution o ng safe.
Okay.
Yun.
Matanong ko lang, Lieutenant General Binag. No? First of all, may na-observe ako eh. Mahal ko yang si General Eliazar. May pinagsamahan tayo niyan. At kayo naman sa kapulisan, kilala niyo rin ako. Nagtuturo naman ako doon sa community relations, sa Directorate for Community Relations. Pero napansin ko, ibang-iba style mo eh. Kalma ka. Pero sabi ko nga, gaano kaya tatagal ang pagkakalma ni General Binag? Baka katulad siya ni General Eliazar nung nag-umpisa kaming magkilala, napakakalma, bandang huli, konti na lang, na-high blood na. Kayo kalma, no? Pero matanong ko lang, paano ang gagawin natin? Kasi may mga pangamba rin, sinabi sa akin. Kuyang, yung kapulisan, talagang kulang na kulang yan. Ang augmentation forces nila, yung barangay. Ang problema, yung mga barangay, pagdating ng Pasko at Bagong Taon, kadalasan nandoon sila sa mga umpukan at salo-salo. At may pangalawang problema pa, bago dumating, alak, yung pagbebenta ng alak. Napapag-usapan na ba yan? Kasi dyan magsisimula yung sakit ng ulo natin. Katulad ng sabi nyo, General, these are not normal times. Times have changed. Hindi tayo pwedeng bumalik doon sa nakagawian na.
Yeah. Salamat, Cito. Ang ating estratehiya dito sa COVID Shield, dito sa PNP, lalong-lalo na, ay talagang makipagtrabaho kami sa ating lokal na pamahalaan. No? Yun ang ating nabutos ng ating DILG Secretary, ng ating Chief PNP, si General Sinas, work closely with LGU. Kasi sila yung binigyan ng malawak na kapangyarihan ng IATF para magpatupad na nitong mga reasonable regulation o restriction para labanan ng COVID. So, ibig sabihin, pag sa LGU tayo, nandiyan dyan yung kanilang barangay tanods, tapos yung iba nagawa pa sila ng kanilang marshals other than the barangay tanods, may contact tracers din ng LGU natin, tapos sila rin ang nagbibigay ng mga permits do sa kanilang nasasakupan, mga business permits. So napakalakas ng kapangyarihan nila, kaya nga pati yung ordinansa, kung sa curfew, sa kanila rin yan, sa alak, so yun yung natin. Kaya talagang sinasabi natin palagi ng ating DILG Secretary yung papel na ginagampanan ng local government, which nakikita naman natin, no, may mga talagang ang higpit nila, mas mahigpit pa sa national. So sana tuloy-tuloy ito, no? Tuloy-tuloy. Yung nga lang, nakikita lang din natin kasi dahil nagbukas ang ekonomiya, talagang kailangan din naman natin to, saka yung ating social activities. Kaya habol na naman kami kung saan matataong lugar, habol kami ng LGU, habol kami ng barangay, habol kami ng iba't ibang ahensya, doon naman kami maglalagay ng tao. Katulad ngayon, nabanggit mo yung pagbukas ng provincial bus, yung point to point. Usap kami ng highway patrol, o sige, tingnan na naman natin yung protocol doon. Paano, siyempre, kasama dyan yung LTFRB, plus yung government. So, ganun yung talagang whole of nation, whole of
Pero,
lahat. Yun.
ang tanong ko, General Binag, di walang uwian. Ano ba yung code ninyo? Code red ba yun or something na walang uwian lahat ng mga lespo?
Ganun talaga ang namin, ang panawagan namin. Kaya lang, napakaganda ng intensyon ng ating Chief PNP Sinas. Kasi, alam mo, ang pulis, simula nung mahigit na tayo siyam na buwan, tao rin tayo, no? Talagang napapagod. Mahigit 8,000 yung positive na sa amin. 8,589. Tapos, 27 ang namatay. Kaya sabi niya, pinapagawa niya yung aming chief ng personnel. Gawan niyo ng paraan on a rotation basis kung paano makuha yung Pasko, Bagong Taon, Three Kings, kung paano makapagpahinga yung police by group without sacrificing yung aming presensya sa lalo na doon sa matataong lugar. So yun yung gagawin namin at magbibigay nga ng announcement ang aming chief ng personnel kung paano to.
Okay, well, in any case, Lieutenant General Binag, bagamat paminsan-minsan nagkakakulitan ang media, ang pulis, ang mamamayan, I think at the end of the day, hindi lang nasasabi, pero dama ng mga Pilipino ang serbisyo, pagbibigay tulong at pagganap sa trabaho ng kapulisan. And I, for one, would just like to express our appreciation for you, for all the men and women of the PNP, lalo na dito sa Paskong magiging malamig at malungkot para sa kanila dahil hindi lang sila naka-duty, manghuhuli pa sila. Huling katanungan ko na lang, paano ngayon kung magkahulihan? Kasi may mga makukulit talaga. Di bale man lang sana kung magaling kumanta. Paus na, sintonado pa. Paano yung gagawin doon? Hihilahin ba yun sa barangay o dadali na sa presinto mismo?
Salamat, Cito, sa iyong appreciation. No? At alam ko, matutuwa yung lahat ng pulis nakakinig nito. Masayang-masaya kami. Ito yung nagpapalakas ng loob sa amin kahit na talagang napakahirap ng trabaho. Yun namang sistema natin. No? Sa pagtayo ng pulis ho dyan, sana yung presensya namin magbigay paalala na sa inyo na sumunod kayo. Hindi lang sa protocol, pati na rin sa ibang pinapatupad natin na batas. No? Tapos kung sakali naman nung nag-violate, ito naman yung sistema natin. Una, pinapaalalahanan. No? Tapos ng paalala, wawarningan naman po yan. Iba pa yung warning, sabihin talagang man-to-man na. Yung paalala namin kasi, meron kaming placard, meron kaming megaphone. Tapos, then kung kailangan ng tawagin individual attention, ginagawa ko namin yan. Tapos susunod na ho doon, bayon sa ordinansa ng mga LGU, meron naman kaming ticket, panikit yan. No? Na live ka, bayad ka, o kaya community service. Tapos yung susunod dyan, ayaw namin umabot sa ganito, ito na yung pag-aresto. Kasi nga, ito na yung katulad ng inassault ng ating mga barangay officials, inassault kami. Siyempre, hindi natin alam kung positive yun. Tapos, pangalawa, nagbabiolate sila ng batas. So, kailangan ng arrest. Higit 2,000 yan. No? So, ayaw namin umabot sa ganun. Kasi wala rin kaming pagdadala na kulungan. Dahil
At least you're honest. I appreciate your honesty, General. In any case,
meron kaming na-resto positive. Ilan yung na-lockdown namin na istasyon. Nahawa yung mga pulis namin doon. So, kaya nga, kailangan talaga makipag-unang ginagawa namin, dinalagay muna sa gym, tapos doon yung process kung pwedeng i-penalize na ng And so, yun.
Okay.
Kaya talaga ako.
Magpapagawa ako ng 2x2 na kahon, pagkatas doon natin pakantahin. Buong Pasko para matuto ng leksyon. Anyway, Lieutenant General Binag, thank you for your time. Again, our appreciation for the service and dedication of the men and women of the PNP. Kung hindi tayo magka-interviewan bago sa Pasko, maligayang Pasko po at sana kahit papano makapagdiwang ang mga tauhan ninyo prior or after the holidays. Thank you very much, sir.
Salamat, Cito, at kami rin bumabati sa iyo at sa lahat ng nakikinig at sana ay patuloy nating pagtulong-tulungan ang paglaban dito sa COVID. God bless. Cito.
Okay, yan po si Lieutenant Colonel. Lieutenant, sorry, dinimut ko bigla kasi meron ako nakita dito. Lieutenant General C kasi nakita ko, Cesar Binag. And doon po sa mga nanonood naman, itong Kapaskuhan, pag nakita naman po ninyo yung mga nagpatrol sa inyo, naglalakad, nagdadrive, kung meron kayong panahon, paghandaan naman ninyo, lalo na kung alam yung regular na dumadaan sa inyo yung mga pulis natin, kayo na magkusang magbigay ba naman ng konting puto, konting mamon, o kaya lumpia, o kahit ano. Let's show our police that we respect them, admire them, and we support them. Okay, break muna po tayo and babalikan natin yung ating mga interview after a few reminders. Okay, we move on quickly to our next guest and our series of guests kasi medyo marami-rami po tayong bisita this morning. Let's speak with Dr. Anthony Leachon, a known cardiologist and health advocate. Doc Tony, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Cito. Magandang umaga sa mga nakikinig at nanonood.
Okay, Doc Tony, apparently balita ka na naman. Ikaw na naman yung napansin doon sa may Pasig River at sinasabing panay ang puna mo sa ginagawa ng gobyerno, particularly in COVID-19, because you want a position in government. Ano ba ang punot dulo nito? What and why are you criticizing in terms of the vaccine program?
I'm not criticizing. I'm just a critical thinker. Given my talent, skills, and expertise and experience in my past life, and for disclosure, I used to work with Pfizer from 1993 to 2010. Now, for a compound
Ano ba trabaho mo nun sa Pfizer, Doc Tony? Kasi 1990 something to 2010, mahaba yun, 1993 to 2010.
I was medical director of medical and regulatory affairs director, meaning to say I'm in charge of research and in charge also of bringing a certain compound from the US or from another country to the Philippines. And I work with logistics, distribution, clinical research, quality standards, marketing and sales, and legal and corporate affairs. So basically, malaki ang experience natin dito. And kaya lang naman tayo nagko-comment because when I heard over and listened, of course, and watch the vaccine SAR in ANC that there would be a deal that will be signed with Sinovac, and volumes of stocks will be arriving in January for a mass vaccination. Eh, napaisip ako, teka muna, it has not been considered for an emergency use authorization like an EUA or an FDA approval. How on earth can we actually allow market authorization without efficacy and safety data? This is a fair scientific question. Because ang unang i-injectan nito healthcare workers eh. Ang unang i-injectan nito ay essential workers and the poor eh. So, ang taas ng vaccine hesitancy rate natin, ang baba din acceptability natin. So, if we will not actually answer those scientific questions, magkakaproblema. But instead of answering efficacy and safety data, they resorted to ad hominem attacks na untrue, baseless, unfair to my personality. It's not fair. Kasi wala naman tayong sinasabing masama. I'm just asking a fair question.
Okay, so ikaw, yung hugot mo, so to speak, your thoughts or your opinions is based on what, 2 decades of experience. If you were to procure a vaccine, you would do exactly what you were doing with Pfizer when you were still connected with the company, going through the data, the research, the comparison, etc.
Right. Yeah. Kasi
So, in other words, you know what you're talking about.
of course, imagine mo 2 dekada. We launched the greatest drugs in history. So I was thinking lang, sabi ko, since we're going to procure it, the only vaccine allowed in the world right now, as we speak, hindi dahil I came from Pfizer, ang UK, December 8, nag-allow sila ng vaccination, in-approve nila. Then Canada, then Bahrain, then Mexico, and then Singapore. I mean, imagine yung Bahrain and Mexico are 2 small countries. Nakapag-register na sila ng Pfizer in their country. And then tayo, right now, asking for it. Pero hindi nila alam ang rate limiting step is actually an EUA and an FDA approval. So what I'm saying, here you are, you're getting another drug from China hanggang phase 3 trials lang. They can only boast for unfinished phase 3 trials. And then may issue legalities, allergic kami dyan in the corporate world because there was an issue in the Washington Post na sinasabing FDA bribery cases with Xenovac. So these are important issues that we need to understand because you will actually inject 70% of the population. So, and it will entail, of course, a safety issue. Kaya tinatanong natin, regulatory and medical. There's no malice with that.
What
Di
does
ba?
the failed third clinical trial tell you? Kasi maski ako nagtataka eh. Bomba sila ng bomba, okay ang Sinovac na yan, nagte-testing na. And then biglang, yung third from what I remember, Doc Tony, is yun yung maramihang pagsubok. That is the large population testing of several thousand. Am I correct?
You're correct, phase 3. But
Oh.
they said that it will be coming out by late December.
Hmm.
Kaya lang, what bolster my question is the headline right now in Philippine Star.
Oo.
According to somebody
Yeah.
dropped the ball, according
Oo.
to Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin. Ibig
Mm.
sabihin, there was pala an arrangement with Secretary Pompeo of US with Babes Romualdez and Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin assuring us of 10 million doses ng Pfizer vaccine. So, dapat yun, kinuha na ng vaccine SAR at ng DOS and FDA at nag-apply ka na ng FDA approval kasi there's a looming already approval in FDA. November pa, nag-apply na yung Pfizer.
Alam mo,
And then,
I hate to say this, Doc Tony, but given the push for the Sinovac vaccine that you have challenged because of the undone third clinical trials, and then walang mga data pa, and then meron pang legal challenge sa Amerika, and then biglang nilaglag yung Pfizer. I mean, that's the only Tagalog word I can use. Kasi sabi ni DFA Secretary Teddy Boy, somebody dropped the ball.
Dropped the
The
ball.
question is, kumbaga sa basketball, sinadya bang ilaglag yung bola para hindi makascore o hindi manalo? Because you're correct. You're pointing out that all over the world, Pfizer is already being injected to millions of people. And here we have from Secretary Pompeo himself, Teddy Boy Locsin, and
Babes
Ambassador
Romualdez.
Babes Romualdez, biglang nilaglag yung bola. Anak ng ewan. Nakakatakot ito, Doc Tony. What do you have? Nakuantak mo na ba yung dati mo mga katrabaho dyan sa Pfizer? Kung may alam sila tungkol dito sa drop the ball syndrome na ito?
We have, based on our readings, lalo na sa Bloomberg News, Pfizer pala has already notched deals with 6 countries in Asia. And I would like to enumerate, Japan, and then Singapore, Macau, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and South Korea. 6 na. And we are
Well, six governments,
six
local
governments.
or national. Oh.
Oo,
Kasi,
ang ibig
mm,
sabihin, bakit sa Asian countries meron na silang FDA approval? Ang ibig sabihin, pwede na silang umorder. Ang rate
mm,
limiting step is the FDA approval. So sinasabi ni Secretary Teddy Boloksin, somebody drop the ball kasi alam na niyo na dapat yan. Kung o-order tayo dapat meron na tayong registration sa FDA.
mm.
Somebody drop the ball. Wala nakipag-coordinate right now sa Pfizer locally para irehistro yan sa FDA. Kaya hindi natin makukuha yon. Now, since nagmamadali tayo, we're setting light with the Sinovac, which is more expensive than Pfizer and the AstraZeneca. Because
Ano? Hindi,
yeah,
kasi akala ko kanya tayo hindi makakuha. And this is in all honesty. Akala ko kanya hindi makabili ang Pilipinas sa Pfizer ay kasi mahal. Dahil gano'n naman talaga yung Pfizer eh. It's always been a premium brand. Kumbaga, mas mataas lagi ang balor. Sabi mo, mas mahal ka mo yung Sinovac?
yeah, it came from the office of Senator Sani Angara, who's the chair of the Finance Committee. Ito
Oh.
yung datos eh. Number one, of course, is Moderna at around $60. At ang Sinovac, lumalabas siya na $40 or $50. Ang Pfizer, $20. Ang Astra, $5.
At
So,
saka yung Astra dito sa Pilipinas, they actually sold their vaccine at cost to the group of Joey Concepcion.
exactly. No
Yeah,
profit.
no profit.
No
Oh.
profit at $5. Ang nangyari lang, naantala because nagkaroon ng dosing regimen problem. You remember?
Mm.
Na effective siya for full dose and then after 3 weeks, 60%. Nung kinalahati yung dose and then ginawang full dose, naging 90%. Teka muna, sabi ng FDA abroad,
Mm.
bakit hindi nyo sinabi itong change in doses while in midstream nagpalit kayo ng doses
Mm.
after this? So, yan ang question. Kaya dapat ang Astra, kasabay dapat ng Pfizer and Moderna. Moderna will be approved tomorrow, December 17.
Mm.
Nakalagay na yan. And then Astra yung kahuli-hulihan. So,
Mm.
if I were, let's say, to bet, kunyari, I'm in the government and advising them, I would advise those drugs na may regulatory approval na in international markets.
Mm.
Kasi safe ka doon at hindi ka mapapahiya in the country. Particularly, mas mura ang Pfizer at saka Astra. Why will you buy Sinovac nang wala kang efficacy and safety data tapos i-inject mo ngayon sa Pilipino in March? Haste makes waste and that's a dangerous problem.
Mhm. Mas mahal na o hindi pa fully processed in terms of protocol of registration and testing pagkatapos sinasabi na gusto mo lang daw ng posisyon sa gobyerno.
Eh, eh,
Bakit ba ganon, Tony Leachon? Bakit ba pag nagsasalita ka, nagre-react sila? Marami naman sa media, maraming politiko, mga senador, pag nagsasalita, ini-isnab lang nila. Pero pag si Tony Leachon o kaya si Vice President Leni Robredo nagsasalita, what do you guys have in common?
Hindi ko alam. In fact, papasalamat ako na kay Teddy Boloksin, nag-Twitter siya.
Mm.
Sabi ko, I did not ask for any position. In fact, when I retired from Pfizer, I actually volunteered my service to Secretary Ona as 1 peso consultant. I work on the syntax, remember?
Mm.
1 peso consultant. Sabi pa nga nila, may utang pa sila because hindi ko pa natatanggap yung piso ko eh.
Mm.
At sabi ni Teddy Boy Locsin, and today sinagot ko siya, you're a good man pala, Dr. Leachon. Kasi sabi, sila daw ni Joker Arroyo, during the time ni Cory, if I have to work in the government, for us to give us our talents, you have to pay us handsomely, yung sinasabi. O yan sabi ko, ito ang aking curriculum vitae nasa internet para malaman mo kung ano. I work in the government for free. I was public affairs director doon. So if I wanted the position, then dapat noon pa, ang tanda ko na ngayon. I mean, my sunset
Hindi.
years.
No,
Diba?
but also because I mean, what you say is fair comment. Hindi naman dahil sa kaibigan kita or kakilala kita, but I would I think that's my reputation. I will recognize what's
Yeah.
good and I will criticize what's bad. But in your case, so after 20 years of experience in Pfizer, you basically believe that going with the Sinovac vaccine, as it is, being more expensive, not being tested, and being pushed, and then in light of what Teddy Boy Locsin exposed, na someone dropped the ball, paano na ito? What is the position, what would be the sentiment of companies like Pfizer? Kasi parang, ito lang tanong ko, tanong ko ito direkta. Kasi yung mga pharmaceutical companies dito sa Philippines, before COVID-19, laging nagugulpe doon sa prices, sa price control, price regulation, etc. Pag mayroong gustong pumapil na tao, gagamitin yung price regulation. Is this the reason why some people find it hard now to talk to those companies? Kasi kumbaga parang ayaw nilang mapahiya kasi matapos silang banat-banatan yung mga pharmaceuticals, ngayon kailangan nilang humingi ng tulong.
Totoo 'yun. Nagkaroon sila ng nagtampo sila for a long time na tumutulong sila in R&D. Ngayon napatunayan sa buong mundo na kailangan pala natin ng research and development. And then, Sito, as we speak, hindi mo pala alam, last night, the World Health Organization announced that Pfizer will join the alliance ng COVAX so that Pfizer will be available to the poorer countries. Ka-announce lang last night. The CEO of Pfizer, Albert Bourla, na sasama na siya so that yung Pfizer na produkto nila, mass produce nila to serve the poorer countries, middle income countries. Yun ang latest na balita. So what I'm saying right now, meron lang tayo preconceived bias. I think that's the term. We have a preconceived bias against multinationals na hindi tumutulong. Tandaan natin,
we have a preconceived bias against multinationals, and we have an unexplainable preference for things made in China.
exactly. Hindi natin sinasabi yun. But what
Ako
I'm
na
trying
magsasabi.
meron tayong preferred choice lagi sa China, and hindi tayo gumagamit ng science in terms of choosing our products. It's about time that we step up to the plate.
Do you have anything to say to your former boss, Secretary Carlito Galvez, and your best friend, Harry Roque?
Well, ang ganda nga nito, ang nag-defend sa akin mga journalist na pinipiga ako regarding Secretary Galvez. Sabi ni Christian Isguera, when I interviewed Dr. Leachon asking for the generals whether they were performance during the stint sa NTF, all good words. Yan, isa. Number 2, si Inday Barona, ganun din, piniga din ako. Raisa Robles, piniga rin ako, and all. Wala sila nakuha sa akin bad words. Because I'm a friend of Secretary Galvez. Ngayon, kung sinasabing niya na I live in a different world, I live in a world separate from the military because I'm a scientist, I'm a researcher, I'm a medical doctor. And for Secretary Roque, please answer the question. As a spokesperson, you're supposed to inspire people in this time of crisis and give opinions na dapat you're not trying to weaponize your post and then try to put words into words of the president, because a cabinet secretary told me that during the IATF meeting, wala namang minumura ang presidente. In fact, hindi ka na nga NTF nun. Iniimbita ka rin ng office of the president. I remember that the president talked to me for 1 hour in that particular session last July. So, ngayon, kung murahin man ako ng presidente because of a scientific comment, I can accept that. Kasi siya ang tatay ng bansa sasabihin niya, Tutoy, tama na muna yan. Okay lang yan. Tama na yan. I will actually shut up. Kaya lang, we need answers right now kasi they are going to procure a vaccine na walang regulatory documents. Doon lang nanggagaling po si Tony Leachon po.
Okay. Thank you very much, Doc Tony. I think we've made things clear and connected the dots. Na-drop yung ball, may pinus na ibang bola. Thank you very much, Doc Tony Leachon.
Thank you very much po. Thank you. Cito,
Okay.
regards.
Okay, yan po si Doc Tony Leachon. And mabuti sa kanya na nanggaling. I've known him for quite some time. I have worked with him in the private sector and now in media. And then nililinaw ko lang, no? Yung sinabi po niya that he worked for Pfizer for 20 years plus, doing all of this, he was a medical director, he knows what he's talking about. Ngayon, kung yung mga kaibigan natin sa gobyerno, sila Secretary Galvez, si Secretary Roque, medyo naiirita kayo kasi merong inilalabas na katotohanan na baka makahadlang o maging pampabagal o nakakaasar lang, tanggapin natin. It's fair comment. It is intended for public health safety. Hindi po pwede yung sasabihin nyo may sariling mundo o sasabihin nyo na pinagmumura ka na nga ni Digong. Pinalabas mo pang masama si Presidente na pag-aasar sa tao, puro mura ng mura. As far as I'm concerned, yung pagmura ni Presidente, paminsan-minsan gigil o pa-effect. Pero yung sasabihin mo, ang dami mo ng beses minura ni Presidente, etc., it's not right. Especially for people who claim to be Christians. Sorry, I'm calling it. It's not right. We'll go for a break. We'll come back with Dr. Almora here on Agenda. Okay, we're back here on Agenda. Ako naman po hanggat maaari, wala akong gustong kampihan. Kanya lang, alam niyo po, pag medyo you start putting words into the mouth of people, medyo, wag. Let's not do that. Anyway, let's go to Dr. Jaime Almora, President of the Philippine Hospital Association. Doc J, good morning.
Good morning, Cito. Good morning to all.
Yung itnig ko ba, pinadeliver mo na?
Itag.
Itag. Sorry. Itnig ako ng itnig. Anyway, doon sa mga hindi nakakaintindi, yung itag po, yan po yung kalinga bacon, kung tawagin ko. Kasi para yung mga mas masarap pa kaysa sa Canadian bacon. Napapakamot si Dr. Almora kasi sinabi ng tigilan mo na yan masama sa katawan niya. Anyway, Doc, makikibalita lang kami. What is our situation right now? I mean, wala pa naman bad news tungkol sa COVID cases, pero may growing concern na baka pagdating ng December 26 o kaya January 2, wala nang paglagyan ng tao sa mga ospital dahil sa COVID.
Definitely, Cito, yan ang kinakatakutan namin. Not immediately, pero siguro more of towards the New Year already. Christmas to New Year kung magkakaroon ng problema. Kasi right now, nagsisimula na yung mga gatherings, social events, fellowship sa mga opisina, sa mga different organizations. So there are bigger chances of spreading the virus considering the lack of social distancing. Dito.
Yung bang mga cases continuing pa rin sa mga hospital nyo, sa mga members nyo? Parang, kasi for a while, sabi natin, di ba, bumababa na. Ngayon, sinabi ng Octa Research, si Father Nick, si Professor Guido, sabi na, dati 9 na lang, ngayon nag 1.6 na naman.
Ang na-observe ko from my personal observation, depende yan sa mga local IETF, local enforcers. Mga local sa Pilipinas na medyo hindi stricto sa mga pag-quarantine, sa mga traveling public.
Case-to-case basis.
Doon tumataas yung cases. At saka yung mga complacent at irresponsible na yung mga tao, and that is the norm now. Naging complacent na, pupunta ka sa mga barangay, nagkakasayahan na dyan, daming nag-attend ng mga wake o kaya sa mga kasalan, mga birthday. Parang nawala na yung takot nila sa COVID. So that is really a danger now. And we may not, the hospitals, right now, there is a surge in the big centers that are identified to be COVID centers. Government level 3 hospitals, also private level 3 hospitals, they are being overwhelmed with cases. Hindi pa naman tayo nag-spill over doon sa lower level hospital, sa level 2 and level 1. But if there's going to be a surge this Christmas and New Year, we will definitely be experiencing surge in our lower level hospitals.
Okay. What is the likelihood or probability that if things don't improve or if things actually get worse, will your association call for return to ECQ or MECQ, etc.?
Definitely, Cito, this Christmas, we would like to call for lesser celebration. It was pointed out a while ago during your interview with Lieutenant General
Binag. Yeah.
about families celebrating among themselves. Kasi ang danger diyan talaga is mixing people from different households. Yan ho. Sa mga hospitals naman, dito sa hospital ko, sabi ko, ang celebration natin tayo-tayo lang. Dati-dati celebration kasama ang pamilya. It's a family event kasi Christmas is a family event. But I said, hindi pwede na, tayo na lang kasi we do not want to mix with other people. And I hope that is what others will do also. If they're going to celebrate among themselves, yung household lang, not to include others. Kasi safe naman kung within the same household celebration. So,
siguro dapat remind na rin natin yung mga employers o kaya yung mga, kasi yung sabi mo, no, if there is a surge or a rise in infections, we will notice it in all likelihood after January 1 or January 2. Now, what should employers, whether employers of household help, drivers, or companies do as a preventive protocol? Kasi magkagaling yan sa mga party, sa mga family reunion, tapos babalik na yan sa trabaho, etc. Napansin ko, Doc, maraming na-infect ngayon sa mga kakilala ko, na-infect dahil sa katulong or dahil sa driver.
Yes. The infection comes from many sources. To put it simply na lang siguro, Cito, merong kasabihan yung mga matatanda natin noon, pag tayo nakikita nila tayo masyadong nagkakasayahan, sabi ng matatanda, oh, tama na yung tawanan at sayahan na yan, mamaya susunod yan iyakan. Siguro isipin natin. Masyadong kasayahan.
Pero yeah, I know, but Doc, should there be a protocol quarantine para sa mga employees returning from the holidays? Kasi di ba, gano'n na nangyari sa China eh. Nag-uwi yan. Tapos nagkahawahan. Dito ba, would you recommend or would your group recommend na pagbalik ng mga empleyado galing sa bakasyon ng Christmas holidays, magkaroon ng parang 7-day or 3 days na wala munang pasok para magkaalaman kung sino may COVID?
Absolutely, Sito. Yan naman ang protocol. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, depende na lang sa mga border guards natin. Kung sila, di makakapasok. Pero pag i-implement nila strictly yung IATF protocol, magkakaroon tayo ng kahit pa paano security. Dahil yan talaga. Ang maganda, may mga barangay na talagang stricto sila. Mas stricto kaysa sa national level. Maganda yon. Pero mga barangay officials na rin, kung minsan parang napagod na rin sila.
Oo,
I-
sabi nga ni Father Nick kahapon responsibility requires energy, and we are now living in times where responsibility is very tiring.
and
Okay.
dapat
Do-
mga tao now with the technology, we really
Oo.
don't have to be physically near each other. Being physically
Mhm.
apart does not necessarily mean living afar. Like
Oo.
we're
Pero,
having now, we can see each other face to face. We are up close and personal. We can
nako,
just if we want to shake hands, we
Hmm.
can just do it here. We can shake my hands.
Pero Dr. Almora, alam mo, easy for us to say kasi teki tayo. Pero yung mga pag-ikot ko ngayon, sus, Ginoo, kaliwat kanan, karaoke party, walang face mask, inuman, sigawan. Sabi ko, ayan na yung kinakatakutan natin. Isa lang nagunggong ang pumasok diyan. Kakalat na naman itong problema. In any case, are your members prepared? Because last time I spoke with you, you mentioned that you were having a manpower problem because there were people leaving, there were people deciding not to work anymore. What is the situation?
It's getting worse. The
Oh,
manpower problem is getting worse because the hiring for the DOH requirement for the COVID response, public health response, yung mga ginagamit yata nila para sa tracing of contacts and many other public health concern. They are getting from our nurses. And the PNP also is continuously getting from our supply of nurses.
sa mga private hospitals.
Mataas ang sweldo sa PNP,
Mhm.
napakataas ng sweldo na inoffer ng DOH. It creates destability. It's the destabilizing.
Wala bang binibigay na subsidy ang gobyerno? Because, I mean, most people don't understand your situation. Your competitor is government. Government hires people with high salaries because it is no cost to them. They are not profit-oriented. They are funded by taxes. You, on the other hand, have so many cost factors, and therefore you cannot pay the same kind of salary unless you increase the charges, in which case people will stop going. So, pero wala bang subsidy or compensation? Has the Association of Hospitals not ask members of Congress for compensation? Kasi parang nangyari, training ground kayo tapos recruitment.
Matagal na sito.
Patay.
Matagal ng training para kami. Ang papunta sa abroad at saka sa gobyerno. But in fairness to the government, lately mayroon naman silang nagbigay sila ng hazard pay. Sinama ang mga private hospitals doon sa hazard pay na binigay sa mga government workers. Ewan ko kung pareho o hindi, pero mayroong binigay. So we are thankful for that. Kasi hindi namin naman kayang ibigay yung hazard pay, gobyerno naman ang nagbigay.
Okay, well, that's good to know, Dr. Almora. And iwanan ko na kayo dyan. Medyo alam ko marami ka pa rin ginagawa, magra-rounds ka pa, etc. But please do stay safe, healthy, and strong. And if we don't get to talk to each other, come Christmas, Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas. I hope I have a way to send your itag.
Wag na. May internal customs dito. Health protocol officer, dali ako. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tito.
Okay, Dr. Jaime Almora, President of the Philippine Hospital Association. Okay, correction lang po. Mali daw yung nasabi ko. Sabi ni Gab Malyari, yung aming executive producer, kasi sinabi ko yung R0 1.6 from 9, naging 1.6. Mali po yun. 1.06. Kakapiranggot lang ang tinaas, pero ibig sabihin doon, may manghahawa na. Okay, so yun po, no? We'll go for a break, and when we return, pag-usapan naman natin itong Better Broadband Alliance. Ano ba yung grupo nila? What do they want to do? Kasi last we talked about broadband many years ago na naging nabansagang broadbandit. Malawak na samahan ng mga bandido. Yung bang government broadband project? Ito, iba ito. Better Broadband Alliance. We will speak with Mary Grace Santos after the break. Okay, you're back here on Agenda. I'm Cito Beltran, your host, and you are watching us via Signal TV channels 8 and 250, as well as on Facebook.com/OneNewsPH, YouTube OneNewsPH. Yun po, okay. Ito pong pag-uusapan natin, itong tungkol sa Better Broadband Alliance with Mary Grace Santos. Para lang alam ninyo, no? Kasi yung pong sinabi ni Presidente na, okay, I'm giving the telecoms company up to December 31 to improve their services or else. Okay? Pagkatapos, pumasok naman yung dito, nandito yung dito, pero hindi pa yata nakakaarangkada yung dito, panay ang tira, panay ang trabaho, pero of course, it can't level up to where the two telcos are, because that takes years. And we will find out. Let's bring in Mary Grace Santos, convener and spokesperson, Better Broadband Alliance. Mary Grace, are you there?
Yes, good morning.
Okay, good morning, Mary Grace. Welcome to the program. And mapag-usapan nga natin, ano na ba yung Better Broadband Alliance and how did you come about?
Okay, so thank you for having us. We are a coalition of stakeholders who are pushing for policy reforms that can bring better broadband into the country. So basically, we have partners coming from different sectors. We are composed of civil society organizations. These are your nonprofit. Um, the conveners of the BBA are actually Internet Society, the Philippines chapter of the Internet Society. It's a global nonprofit organization that was established by Vint Cerf himself, one of the fathers of Internet. We also have democracy.net.ph, the Foundation for Media Alternatives, joint foreign chambers in the country, as well as ICT related industry and consumer groups. Included there would be the Philippine Network Operators Group, the Game Developers Association of the Philippines, among others.
Okay, so madaling sabi, marami kayong kakampi. The question
Yes,
is, you mentioned you wanted policies and legislation. What exactly is needed in the country for us to step into the international levels of competition and service?
yes. First of all, we have to remember that our policies that we use now are still anchored on the analog era, the landline fixed telephone era. No, so the youngest of them, the laws that we're using would be the 1995 Public Telecommunications Policy Act.
Sa
So what we
madaling sa madaling salita, Mary Grace, yung mga batas na umiiral, panahon pa ng party line.
Yes, exactly. Kung naabutan na ng mga viewers yung party line, yun exactly ang ginagamit pa rin natin ngayon. So
Okay.
what we are pushing for is a digital policy framework. So kailangan i-update naman natin yung mga batas para naaayon sa how people actually communicate and connect, which is through the internet. So we
Okay.
are pushing for two legislative reforms. First would be the Open Access in Data Transmission Bill, or the Open Access Bill. And the second one would be the Faster Internet Services Act, or the Better Internet Act. So dalawang policy siya. Yung isa would address the need to open up the market and ensure that there are more investment, including encouraging small players to build networks for broadband in the countryside. That's the Open Access Bill. And the
Okay,
second
why,
bill,
okay, isa-isa lang, Mary Grace,
okay.
why the open access bill and why the emphasis on small players? I mean, one would assume sa dami nga ng pangangailangan natin, sa laki ng pangangailangan, it would be open. Ano ba ang patakaran ngayon? What is the rule right now?
Okay, so right now, the laws that we're using are basically centered on the big nationwide telcos. But in reality, yung network ng mga malalaking telcos are only deployed up to a certain extent. Usually sa mga probinsya, hanggang city center lang yan or poblasyon. So what we need to do is have other players distribute yung capacity or bandwidth na dinadala ng big telcos papunta sa mga barangays hanggang sa mga end users. Malaki ang bandwidth na needs ng Pilipinas, pero hindi ito nakakarating doon sa mga end users in the periphery or in the countryside. So we are emphasizing in the Open Access Bill that we need to ensure that there are different types of players who are able to use different technologies that are appropriate for different areas in the country. Kasi tayo, may mga mountainous areas, may coastal villages, may mga fishing villages. So, iba-iba ang terrain, iba-iba ang pangangailangan.
Kumbaga sa television, katulad yung pinag-uusapan natin ngayon, most people can watch us via Facebook or Signal TV na hindi
Yes.
mo kailangan ng cable. Naka-satellite ka lang, swak ka na. May mga areas naman na practical dahil magkakalapit yung mga bahay, nakakable sila.
Yes.
At saka may mga areas na pwede na, kukonti lang yung nakatira, hindi maseservisan ng isang kumpanya, lalo na sa cable TV. So, ang nangyari, parang nagkakaroon na lang sila ng localized version nila.
Yes, exactly. Many different iterations and combinations of technologies. And this can only happen if our policy framework is welcoming of these innovations. Plus, siyempre, as years go by, nag-iiba-iba na rin yung business model. So, hindi na tayo centralized telephone network. In fact, maraming klase ng networks at technologies ang pwedeng gamitin to access the internet. Just to name a few, there are already developments in the satellite technology, for example. TV white space is also one technology that can be used. Ang cable TV, nakaka-provide din ng cable broadband. So, fixed wireless access is also available. So, ito ang mga bagay na dapat nakikita natin sa batas or pinapayagan ng batas.
Okay, Mary Grace, what is the problem? Kasi nung panahon namin, nung bata, nung kaedad mo ko, nung bata pa ako, ang concern dati ng mga big business, we're coming in, we're spending so much, we're spending billions of pesos, and then you're going to let little Pac-Mans eat us, kumbaga, di ba? But with the things that your group are pushing for, does it really create competition that will eat up the big guys, or is it more complementary?
Actually, on the contrary, it's complementary because, again, we have bandwidth coming from the big players. We just need to distribute them, going to the end users. Actually, if you look at how the internet works, so may wholesaler ka, may retailers, and then you have international connectivity, pero at one point, kailangan yan dumating sa bansa, and then you have to distribute it to the different major regions, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, the provinces, municipalities, and barangays. So, ganun yung pagbaba ng bandwidth. So, ngayon, ang problema, kapag nandoon na siya sa backbone, pupunta lang yung bandwidth na yon sa iilang lugar sa isang probinsya kung saan nakikita na merong business case to be made, of course, by, big players would really want their ROI, no? But then at some point, masyado nang nagiging maliit ang market para sa big players, or masyado nang kakaunti ang mga posibleng end users sa mga lugar na yon. Pero ang pinagkaiba nitong big players sa small players is that big players actually are built around serving communities, where people are, there's low population density, where you are serving barangays instead of big cities. So, complementary siya. In fact, magkakaroon ng mas maraming service providers na nasa dulo, nasa edge, na nagpo-provide ng access to the internet. Pero malamang sa hindi ay bibili pa rin sila sa mga big players. Kasi syempre, yung mga cable landing stations, for example, malalaking players naman talaga yan. Pati yung mga nationwide backbone network. So, nakikita namin to as a complementary solution.
Okay, are the big players on board with you? Sumusuporta ba sila dito sa open access proposal ninyo?
Sa pagkakaalam ko, ang mga big players natin ay sumusuporta naman sa Senate bill na Senate Bill 45 na filed by Senator Ralph Recto. Siyempre, ang concern naman nila lagi is whether their business will be affected. But coming from the perspective of the consumer and also the small players as well, nakikita namin na mas dadami ang pwedeng gumamit ng serbisyo ng mga telcos kapag ang mga small players ay binigyan ng pagkakataon to build networks going to the end users. So parang palalakihin mo lang ang base ng internet.
Is there a successful model that you have cited or can cite to the lawmakers and to the big business? Kasi siyempre, alam mo, iba yung sinesale stock mo ko. Forgive my terminology, no? Iba yung sinesale stock mo ko, iba rin yung sabihin mo, Kuyang, here, I'm going to show you documentary evidence of this country where these big telcos and this government got together and they did the open access, and these big telcos actually benefited. Kasi, siyempre, alam mo, sa dami ng iniisip ng mga bossing ng mga big telcos na ganyan, hindi na nila naisip na, i-research nyo nga kung dapat nating suportahan ito o hindi.
So, ang open access kasi, iba-iba rin ng models yan, pero sa nakikita ko, sa mga research na nagawa ko na rin, as well as other researchers, countries like the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore have done a a certain model of open access. Just to clarify, no, yung open access na bill na naka-pending ngayon sa Congress, it just opens up the market and makes licensing simpler. It also promotes infrastructure sharing. Sa ibang bansa, ang open access nila, iba rin ang model. For example, no, bawal sa UK na ang wholesaler mo, siya rin ang retailer mo. So may ganong separation of services. Pero itong open access bill natin, hindi naman ipinagbabawal yung ganoon. So,
Okay.
sa tingin ko nga mas liberal itong natin yung version ng open access bill.
Okay, yung isang,
sa
ano pa
Congress.
yung isang batas, Mary Grace, na sinusulong nyo? What's the other bill you're pushing for?
Yung isa ay tinatawag na Faster Internet Services Act. That's at the House of Representatives, pero ang title ng bill na to sa Senate ay Better Internet Act. So essentially, this bill proposes to set and enforce minimum quality of service standards for broadband services. So ang mga public telecom entities at internet service providers ay magkakaroon na ng rules na nagsasabi kung ano ang mga acceptable level ng download speed, upload speed, at iba-iba pang quality of service metrics. So sa tingin ko, it's high time that we have this law.
Well,
The DBA supports this as well.
well, actually, I heard a couple of senators who were talking about that, and they were saying na kailangan na may minimum. But the question is this, no? We all want something. We all want better. We all want faster. And you know, the sad reality is, if you want 5 Mbp now, next year you will want 20 Mbp, etc. But nobody wants to pay the price. And we always stick it to the business companies. And I'm not being pro-business or anything, no? But sabi ko nga the other day, ito ang problema natin sa Pilipinas eh. The government imposes, the public demands, and it's the businessman who gets stuck with the burden. He doesn't get any tax breaks. He doesn't get any tax holidays, etc., or an incentive to develop. Does your proposal for legislated internet speed incorporate such incentives or tax breaks?
Ang proposal ng Faster Internet Service Act ay mas nakatutok sa requiring that service providers deliver what they advertise or promise, and for the consumers to get what they pay for. So kung in-advertise ng isang ISP ay 10 Mbps, kailangan niyang ibigay ito at 80% of 10 Mbps, at least 80% of the time. So yung sinasabi natin na yung mga tao ayaw naman magbayad pero gusto ng faster internet, dito makikita mo na may balanse. Kasi kung ano naman ang in-advertise ng ISP, yun ang kailangan niyang i-deliver at least 80% of the time. So, kumbaga, huwag kang mag-advertise ng hindi mo kayang ibigay.
At saka binabayaran natin yung package na yun, di ba?
Yes. So, sa consumers naman, meron na siyang protection na kapag hindi niya natanggap yung 80%, at least, no, at the minimum, 80% nung what he or she signed up for, maaari na siyang mabigyan ng danyos or mag-complain at ma-penalize yung ISP. So yun yung pinakamagandang sa tingin namin ay pinopropose ng bill na ito kasi maisa sa batas na bawal nang magbigay ng lower than minimum speeds or those that the ISPs advertise. In terms of the sorry, yes, go ahead.
How tough are the penalties? Kasi I only have a minute left with you, Mary Grace. Kasi may nagsabi sa akin na nakakatawa raw yung mga penalties sa ngayon. Parang 200 a day, 200 pesos a day. What would be the penalties?
Yeah, exactly. No, yung 200 pesos per day nasa Public Service Act of 1936 pa yan. That's why we need to update it. So ang penalties dito between 200,000 and between 200,000 pesos. Yes.
Sorry, Mary. 1936 birthday ng tatay ko yun eh.
Okay.
Okay.
Ayun na nga ang problema natin sa mga batas. That's why nga we are pushing to update them. So
Well,
it's between 200,000 pesos and 2 million pesos yung penalties natin per violation
okay.
according to the bill.
Ayan, pag nagkatuluyan na yan, medyo I think you will have certain people's attention. And of course, we don't want to have conflict in society and in business, but what's fair is fair. If I paid for a program or a package, I must get, according to you, at least 80%. And I'd like to commend your group, Mary Grace, for promoting public interest and pushing for better internet service in the country.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to promote the policy reforms for
Well, keep
better
us
broadband.
keep us updated, and we'll be happy to invite you back and give you time to elaborate further in the coming days. And if not, if we don't get to see each other before Christmas, Merry Christmas, Mary Grace.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Okay, yan po si Mary Grace Santos, spokesperson and actual convener of the Better Broadband Alliance. Yun naman po, yun lang sa akin eh. Di ba? Kumbaga, no, let's take into consideration the consumer, the government, but also the businessman. Kasi lahat naman po tayo may taya dyan, and fair is fair. Yun lang lagi, fair must be fair. Okay? So, the time is 9:25. I have 2 minutes to say goodbye. Makikiusap na lang po ako sa inyo. Kung pwede, pakisali na lang sa dasal nyo yung aking kapatid na si Marisa Beltran Altamirano, asawa ni Coach Eric Altamirano, because she has been found to have breast cancer and is currently undergoing chemotherapy. So yun po yung dahilan kung bakit nababanggit ko paminsan-minsan na kung ano man pagsubok, indulto, yun po yung dahilan. Kasi medyo marami-raming nangyayari sa aming mga buhay. And I guess many of fellow Filipinos are going through. But keep up the step up left. Keep up the cheery spirit and keep holding on to the Lord. Because kung kapatid ko nga nando doon, binabasa pa rin niya, kino-quote pa rin niya, minimension pa rin niya ang Panginoon, ang kanyang pananampalataya. All of us should. We should just hold on to our faith. And ewan ko lang kung makukuha ko ito, no? Last minute na raw, sabi ni Gabriel. Pero meron lang akong gustong basahin para sa inyong lahat. Kanina pinadala ito. Okay, ito from John 16:33. I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Kumbaga, na overcome na ni Hesukristo ang pagsubok ng mundo, nagkaroon siya ng muling pagkabuhay, and so will we. Let's all have a good day. God bless all of you. Thank you for your prayers. See you tomorrow here on Agenda.